talks conscious dating and relationships. Tonight we have James Miller of Lifeology. He's a dear friend. He's a wonderful therapist. He's now an author, a book called Life Lessons. And we are so honored. He's a national radio show host. And we're so honored and blessed to have him with us tonight. Hello, James.
Hi, thank you so much for letting me be a guest on your show. I'm truly honored to be back on your show today.
It's wonderful to have you on the show, and how exciting that you have your book out, Life Lessons.
Yes, I am super excited, so I can't wait to talk about it a little bit if we may. But yes, I'm once again so thankful that I'm here today.
Let's get into it right away. Tell us all about Life Lessons.
Well, so Life Lessons, it's a little bit different than other books. So when I wrote it, I wanted it to be very similar to my brand, which essentially is I give little life lessons, little tools and tips that people can use to simplify and transform their life. So the way I wrote this, you can either read it front to back, or you can read it for when you need assistance with something. So it's broken into 9 different categories. And what it is it basically allows you, gives you the framework of saying, okay, I'm struggling here. The chapters are super short. It gives you a framework of what to do. But what's also really cool about this is that it puts you in the driver's seat again, because you are the expert in your life means you felt the feelings before. So your situation today may be very different, but the emotions you felt or feeling now, you felt them before. So if I felt loneliness, heartache, whatever it might be, I can reflect on when did I feel that before? And when I felt it, what did I do that helped me? And what did I do that did not help me? So that's the workbook part of it. So like I said, the chapters are super short. What I know, because when I'm struggling right now, I don't want to read a long book. I just need a few things to
You
help
need some
me.
quick
Read it
answers.
yes, you read it really fast. It gives you the framework of what to do. The workbook helps you reflect on what you've done before. It gives you the information you need to launch forward and to overcome whatever you're facing in that moment.
So I'm going to ask you a really tough question. Why your book and not
That
some of the other
yeah.
self-help books that are out there? What makes yours so unique?
I really appreciate that question. And the reason why it is because I know, being in my field for over 25 years, there's so many wonderful books out there. There's so many wonderful methodologies, but really at the end of the day, it becomes too cookie cutter. So for me, I can give a lot of techniques, a lot of things to do, and they might work, but it doesn't always work. So the reason why my book is different is it really gives you the prompts as you do the workbook portion of it to really reflect on what really works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because in the moment, or at the moment, we often feel, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But when you look at what you've
Right.
done that's successful before, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's what makes this book so different, because you don't need to learn something new. You just simply reflect on what you've done. And you've done it before, you can do it again. You plug and play it, you do that. And it also helps you not do the things that don't work for you. So we know, for example, in this show here, since it's more about dating, a lot of times people
Yeah.
think once I break up with someone, then I need to start dating someone else, or I need to sleep around with somebody. Sure, that might work. But if you know historically that doesn't work, reflect on that in the past. If it doesn't work, don't do that. Try something new.
And what do you recommend someone try from your book? Do you recommend start at chapter 1, or can they start in the middle and work their way out? I know some
Sure,
books
that's
you even start in the back. What
mhm.
do you recommend people? How do you recommend they use the book to their full advantage?
Excellent question. So it really depends on what they're looking for. So with the 9 different categories, if I can read them really fast. It's
Please.
broken down into nine categories. And like I said, there's 38 chapters. So the 9 categories are this: when your emotions overwhelm you, when you're blindsided by life, improving your relationships, when your emotions overwhelm you, moving on with your life lessons, identifying self-sabotage, creating your future, improving your communications, and even tackling the holidays. So all those 9 categories, you can figure out whatever it is you're feeling, and then you can go to any of those chapters within that category from what you want to learn. And it gives you those prompts, like I said, but it also gives you the framework of what I create to help you overcome whatever challenge you have in that moment.
How wonderful. So it's a Bible or a resource.
I wouldn't want to say that, but yeah, kind of.
Well, it's a resource guide,
It is
right?
a
It's a
resource. Yeah. And that's,
resource tool.
yeah, and that's a great thing. I've gotten a lot of people who've responded to me, and they're like, James, I really appreciate this book. It's really helped me feel empowered, but it's also given me the framework that I need to overcome what I'm facing right now. And it's also very very encouraging too, because I know when I'm struggling, to read something like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But it's also just, it's very nurturing in a lot of ways, because we have to overcome something. And so when we have worked this together as a team, as a group, we're all able to overcome something. So there's nothing
Definitely.
in there. Yeah, there's nothing in there that's going to really cause you to feel a certain way, like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Everything is doable, because once again, you are the expert in your life.
Wonderful. That's amazing. I love it. And I love the fact that you wrote it because we've been friends now for a little bit,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
know how thorough and ethical you are. So I just love the fact that this workbook is coming from you and it's going to be able to help so many people and has helped so many people.
Yeah.
Now, how
It's
did you
funny.
find?
I'm
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's what I'm people always ask me, like, James, do you actually practice what you write? And it's funny because well, it's not really funny because when I write these are all things I've had to learn myself. And so some of the chapters that I've written, I remember one of them I was going through a really difficult time. When I wrote this book, I wrote it all different times. So I didn't write it front to back. I just wrote it as what made sense in that moment.
Right.
And I remember there's one, actually the first chapter I wrote, which was so hard. And that one is called radical acceptance. So radical acceptance is it's a fancy SAT word. It's a fancy psychology term that basically means you accept the facts as they are. You can either live in the misery of something, or you can say, okay, these are the facts. What do I do with this, and what do I do moving forward? I had
Right.
my partner and I, we had broken up and early in our relationship, and so we were separated for a while, and I was so overwhelmed. And so here I'm writing this first chapter called Radical Acceptance, and I even say this, I'm like, I have to do this right now. This sucks. This really hurts. And so thankfully he and I are back together, which is fine. But at that time, it was so
Yay.
overwhelming. Thank you. But it was so overwhelming. So there's a lot of things that I wrote in the moment or at that moment that were so
Mhm.
hard, but you have to do it. So these are something, just like you said, I'm ethical. And this is why I wanted to bring that up, is because I have to practice these myself. This is not something,
Okay.
let's just try this. So every single thing in here is something I do all the time. And it's something I
Wonderful.
stand behind 100%, because when you practice these tools and techniques and use the things that you've done in the past that help you overcome every obstacle you face, you once again become the expert. So I just really want your audience to know that I have to practice these as well. I'm no great, I'm not better or worse than anybody else, but I also am a human like everybody else. And I do practice the things that are in this book.
Wonderful. Oh, that's so good. And what kind of feedback have you received from the book? Because I know you've been getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah. I actually just got some feedback yesterday. Someone mentioned to me, they're like, I was really struggling with some changes that she has in her life. I can't say too much, of course, but she has some huge changes in her life. And she's like, I am really struggling. So one of the chapters is called Soaring with Eagles. And soaring with eagles basically means, well, one of my favorite quotes is, you can't hang out with chickens and expect to soar with eagles. So that's how that chapter starts. And so she's like, soaring with eagles
I
is so
love
important
that.
because as she's making these huge changes in her life and really pivotal moments, she was really able to conceptualize that. How do I become greater than where I am right now? And so it's allowing people to really recognize their own worth and their own value, and giving them the opportunity to
Okay.
grow and develop beyond where they currently are. So anytime we have the sense of, I just don't want to be here anymore, I don't understand what's going on, or it's too overwhelming, that's usually a form of mediocrity. Doesn't mean we're mediocre, it just simply means our life has mediocrity in it. So to recognize
Right.
that allows people to level up in so many different ways. So that's really a lot of the feedback I'm getting, is in the moment when people have heartache, when people have financial problems, when people don't know how to handle their families and know how to set boundaries. And so when people are looking to change their environment, all of those aspects of that book are in that book. And that's really the feedback I'm getting, is people are really recognizing that they can change who they are, and they simply reflect on what they've done before.
Wonderful. Well, that's so great.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so honored to have you on to talk about the book. This is amazing. I'm really
I
proud of
appreciate
you.
that. Thank you. I
I'm
really
really
appreciate
proud of you.
that.
This is a
Thank you.
good work. It's going to help so many people. And I
Yes.
love the fact that you can open the book and go to a section that resonates with you
Yes.
and work through your issues that way and really get into those feelings and
Yes.
work
Well,
through them
that's the
and
thing. Like I
have
said before,
tools.
yeah, and so that's the thing. Like I said, these chapters are super short. And that's what I think is different. Another thing that's different than a lot of other books is, because they're so short, it
Uh-huh.
gives you just enough to say, okay, if I really want to learn more, let me research it, because strength that comes easy is not strength at all. So if I give someone all the tools, well, they can read it, but they haven't really done the quote work to figure it out for
Right.
themselves. So it gives them the framework, the direction they should go, and then they want to learn more. There's so many other wonderful self-help books out there, so much more they can research online to figure out more of that information as well.
I love it. I love it. And I love your book. I'm
Thank
so
you.
proud of you. I'm so excited that you wrote it, and I'm picking up my copy this weekend. I'm finally going to have a second to read it. I kept telling myself I'm going to get the book when I can read it, because when I
You're
get
so
it, I'm
kind.
going to
Thank
read
you.
it. Because
Thank
otherwise,
you.
I end up with books and I don't get to them. And I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure. So this weekend, I'm reading your book.
Well, thank you. Well,
So,
the cool thing is you don't have to read it all front to back. You just find out whatever you want to look at in that moment. And I'm hopeful that that will help you as well.
life lessons, they are amazing. And James is just the man to bring them to you.
Thank
James
you.
Miller of Lifeology. And catch his show, Lifeology, right, James? Tell us about your
Yes.
show. Tell us what's on. It's a national show.
Yes. So I am on 3 times a week. You can go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, and you can find out all the information about me. My show, it's a 30-minute self-help book, or excuse me, self-help show that really helps people just simplify and transform their life. It teaches a lot of life hacks, just like your shows in a lot of ways, but it helps people just really look at their life in a different way. To think, maybe life could be a little bit different. If it's a little bit different, then let me try that. And once you try something new,
Right.
you'll find that's the direction you want your life to go. So jamesmillerlifeology.com is where you can find all the information. You can also purchase my book on Amazon as well.
Amazon. And are
Amazon,
you in
yes.
Barnes and Noble?
I am at the time of this publication, or the time of this recording. I am. We have a little bit of a hiccup, but it will be at Barnes and Noble. But right now, it's
Okay,
permanently,
great.
obviously, on Amazon right now. But it will be in every other bookstore as well. We just have a little bit of a hiccup.
Fantastic.
We'll get that right
Well, I'm just so honored and blessed that you could make it today
now. Thank you.
and come on and share life lessons with us, and just enjoy, guys. I encourage you to get the book. Everything I've heard of the book, I know a couple of people who picked it up because we told them about it. Um,
Thank you.
she just fell in love with it. So,
Oh,
and she uses it like an actual resource, and she
oh
keeps it next to
wow.
the Bible. That's why I was jokingly said the Bible,
That's really
because she
honored.
has it on her nightstand, and she'll go and
Wow.
look through pages and then pick the one that resonates with her and work through it. She said the funny thing is she always opens to the chapter that she needs.
Oh, really? Wow. I'm really honored by that. I'm truly blessed. I really am.
Yeah,
Thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
I've been telling everyone to get the book, so just so you know.
Thank you.
So
It's
James
really
Miller, Lifeology, the man,
honored.
the therapeutic master, the author extraordinaire. We're so honored that you could be with us tonight.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate all your time. And thank you to all your listeners and viewers. I truly appreciate you allowing me to be on your show today to talk about my book. Thank you.
It was my great honor, sweetie, and I'll speak with you soon. And I will write you as soon as I finish reading the book on Sunday.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay, James, we will see you soon. That is James Miller, Lifeology. He is a man to watch. He is doing some really fascinating things. He has doing some TV. There's some TV stuff that's going to be coming up. He has this great book. You can pick up in Barnes and Noble. You can pick it up on Amazon. I would go to Amazon right now just because you're going to be able to get the book. The book is called Life Lessons. You are the expert on your life. And it's a workbook. There is a Kindle edition. So for those of you who don't have it, get out there and get it. What are you waiting for? Come on, man. So next up, I know I have such a good show for you guys. Dr. Jameel Syed. Syed. Now, you'd think I'd know this correctly because I speak with him often enough, but I've never actually asked Dr. Jameel how he pronounces his last name. Syed. I can't hear you, sweetie. We have no audio.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the headphones must have not been working, but you pronounced it beautifully, and it's so good to be with you all.
Oh, good, good, good. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you for having me.
And you are doing some amazing work with Mr. Transformation himself. You have your own podcast. Tell everyone about your podcast.
Oh, that'd be my pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, so my podcast is called Transformation Starts Today. And on that podcast, I interview leaders, champions, and high performers from all walks of life as they share their stories, the lessons they've learned along the way, and empowering perspectives to help you create an extraordinary life without regret starting today. And that's the whole basis of
Amazing.
it. And every Tuesday we have a new episode coming out, and we're on episode, I believe, 15 this week. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey so far. And the people that have been tuning in have been getting some wonderful value. And so definitely encourage
Oh,
everyone to check.
yes. I've listened. So I've
Yeah.
listened to a couple of your shows, and I thought they were fantastic.
Thank you. And it's funny, given
Very
the context
excited.
of what we're talking about today, this week's episode is about relationships. So it's perfect.
Very good. So what you got for us?
Yeah. So I wanted to share 3 tips
Share.
to, conscious relationships and dating. I know that's the theme of today's show. And so would love to just dive right into it, unless it would be
Yes, let's
supportive to.
go.
Okay, perfect. So the first one that's been so near and dear to my heart, I thought about it about 3 or 4 years ago, and I thought, wow, this is incredible. And I just call it 90 days. And the way I think about it is, if, God forbid, you found out that the person you're with, your partner, only had 90 days left to live,
Oh,
and there was nothing you could do to stop it. You couldn't tell them, you couldn't hint at it, you couldn't tell somebody else. Like, there's nothing you can do. All you could do, if you chose to, was make the next 90 days as beautiful and enrich of experiences as possible. You could live to light that person up. You could come from your heart, and you can not allow the little things that normally get in the way, the things that you might think are petty, or the things that you might think, yeah, they really bothered me, but in hindsight, not really that big of a deal. When you know there's only 90 days left, you don't let the small things get in the way. So what would happen? How would you act differently? How would you relate to them differently? How would you speak to them differently? How would you treat them differently? Actually give it thought. If I only had 90 days left with this person that I care so much about, what would be different?
yes.
And
What
then
would
if
I
you
do?
actually come from that space, this is where it gets really cool. Playing into the 90-day kind of theme, imagine that you get to day 85 and you go, I got 5 days left. And then it's like
Right.
God, the angel, whatever, shows up and says, oh, by the way, you did such a good job. We gave you another 90 days. And you just live the rest of your life in this relationship in 90-day blocks. Always
Wow.
coming from the space that there's nothing that's worth your peace. There's nothing that's worth the relationship. That if you come from that space of love, if you really show up fully, it's a different version of you that shows up when you know you've got 90 days than if you think you've got 90 years.
It sure is. Wow.
Yeah. So that was the first one I
Wow.
want to share. Is there
I
any
love
comments
the way
on that?
I love the way you reframe that thought process. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Should I go to the second one, or is there anything else you'd like to
Yes,
share?
yes, by all means.
Yeah, the second one, it sounds really simple, but I see, I work with a lot of people in their relationships, their business, their health, mindset. And when it's about their relationships, I see this come up so often. Understanding your partner's needs and meeting them to their satisfaction. And what I mean by that is, it's really easy to think you know what your partner wants, and yet it's coming from your perspective. And so one example that I give, if anyone's familiar with, there's a book by Gary Chapman
Love
called,
languages.
yeah. And as an example of that one, let's say your partner really loves quality time. Now,
Yeah.
you think you know what that means. So your partner wants to watch a movie with you. And so there you both are on the couch, but you're on your phone and you're scrolling and doing your thing. And from your perspective, yeah, I'm here. I don't really want to watch the movie. We're having quality time. But even though you're physically touching, your partner knows that your mind's miles away. And this doesn't count as quality time.
Right.
But you're going to be disappointed and upset and frustrated when you sit there going, I don't get it. We spend all this time together. But they're like, no, we don't. And so understand, what does my partner want? And how you do that? You ask them. One question that I really love is when you
Good
come to the
point.
space of, what is it that makes you feel the most loved? When I do what, do you feel the most loved? And when you find out what that is, you do it to their satisfaction. And now they're really feeling it. They feel lit up. Their needs are being met. And the relationship flourishes so well. Usually when there's relationship problems, the needs aren't being met, and you can't meet them if you don't know what they are.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. You can't. And it's so important to ask. And people always overlook that tiny little thing. It's so simple. Just ask.
Absolutely.
They'll tell you. People will tell you who they are. Whether they intend to or not, they actually will tell you who they are. So it's so wonderful to just observe and get the information. And what other tip do you have for us today?
Yeah, the third one is something that, I started doing a couple years ago, and it's been so powerful. So for me, a relationship, if I say in the context of a commitment is not something that you make once. A commitment is something that you recommit to every single day. And if you want to make
Right.
more kind of granular, you're recommitting to that every single moment. And when you're coming
Okay.
from that space, what my loving challenge is for everyone listening is, when you can, get a piece of paper and write down who your partner is for you. Like, what do they represent? And then write down
Okay.
who you're committed to being for them, how you're
Okay.
committed to showing up, who you're committed to being, all the ways you see them. So, for example, maybe you say, this is my queen, this is my adventure partner, this is my best friend, this is my king, this is my lover, this is the person,
Okay.
the mother or father of my child. This is a person that I am deeply committed to being understanding for and committed to and forgiving, and all these kind of ways of being. And once you've got that written down to the point where it might even get emotional for you because it's so impactful and it's so important for you, then what you
Okay.
do is you commit to reading it every day,
Sorry.
reminding yourself, that's okay.
Mhm.
You read it every day, remind yourself, and recommit. And I'd recommend you do it in the beginning of the day, because if you do it in the beginning of the day, you're more intentional, you're more deliberate, you're more conscious
That's
about it.
true.
And then when your partner does or says whatever that thing is that might have triggered you in the past, you're coming through that context of, hold on a second, I just left my bedroom or wherever I was reading this, and I just told myself about how this person is, they represent all these wonderful things for me. I'm committed to being understanding and forgiving and compassionate. Well, I was about to say something that wasn't that compassionate. I was about to do something that wasn't that understanding. And you actually catch yourself in the moment in real time. You stop it. And then you say,
Wow.
what would I do if I was being understanding and compassionate and loving and forgiving? Well, I would do and say these things. And then you do that. And then you avoid so many complications and problems, and you create such a beautiful experience of your life.
Sounds amazing. I love your advice. It's so good.
Thank you so
We just
much. Yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
those I think those three tips can turn any relationship around. So please apply them.
I think it will, and fortify any relationship also, you know,
Absolutely.
and
Something that,
strengthen.
if could I add one more thing?
Please.
So coming from the space that you probably hear this a lot in your field, and people often say in the beginning of a relationship there's a spark, and then they say that the spark dies. And I disagree with that. For me, I have found to be true also with people that I know that have been married for decades and decades. It's not that the spark dies, the spark changes, but we can let it die if we fall victim to what I call the law of familiarity. And what I mean by
Okay.
that, as you get to know somebody in the beginning, it's very fresh and new, and you're discovering all these things. And so
It's
you kind of want to be
wonderful.
wonderful. You want to be around them all the time, all these wonderful things. As the relationship progresses, if we're not careful and if we're not intentional, we come from that space. We don't really mean to, but we come from that space of treating that person as if they're not special anymore because we know them and it's not new anymore. So we might take them for granted. That's where that we get so
Mm,
familiar, they feel like, we don't do the things we used to do. People listening right now, think about what are the things, if you've been together with somebody for a while, what are the things you did in the beginning of the relationship that, and you can ask that person, what did I do in the beginning that made you fall in love with me? Notice that you're probably not doing most of those things anymore. And then, have your partner ask you the same question, and then start doing those things. And when you realize, wow, unintentionally, my partner doesn't feel as loved, as special, as important, but I love them with everything I am. It's just that I don't
yes.
say more maybe or as much because I
Yeah.
think they know on what are their needs. How can I light them up? How can I just give them everything I've got to their satisfaction? So now you're being really present, you're being really spontaneous, you're being really loving. They're feeling it and they're receiving it. And then that third part, your recommitment. How do I want to show up? Who am I for them? Who are they for me? And then remember
Right.
that. And you keep yourself in that perspective. And again, like you said, fortify, save, turn around, get you into anything you want relationship wise. Those three will do it for you.
Good. Those are yummy, yummy tips. And we're just so honored and blessed that Dr. Jameel Syed could be with us tonight. and with his tips and his amazing podcast and his wonderful smile, and all of these great things and motivation. So we're just so honored and blessed that you could be with us tonight. And I thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lydia. This has been wonderful. And I hope that the people who are listening, if you're in a relationship, I have been, depending on how you look at it, fortunate or not, to have experienced a lot of, if you want to call it, death in my life, actual like death.
Mm.
And I don't say this to be morbid. I say this just to be really beautifully real. We never know when the last time we're going to see somebody is. And I hope everyone listening has years and years and decades more of time. But the next time you see somebody might be the last time you see somebody. And so with
Yeah.
that in mind as a possibility, is this, if you're not in a good mental space, if you're about to say something that's not loving, that's not kind, that's not respectful, would you want that to be the last conversation? And when you realize the answer is always no, and that you never know when that last conversation is going to be, it's never worth it.
That's so true. That's so true. And we will leave you guys on this note from Dr. Jameel. Thank you, kind sir, for
Thank you so
joining us this evening and for your tips. They're fantastic. I encourage everyone to play this back. You'll be able to hear it on Spotify and iHeart and wherever you get your podcasts. Also, it'll be on AM and FM in 13 markets nationally, so feel free to check your local station. We come on Fridays at noon. So I had to think about that in all markets. So we look forward to having you on again. Hopefully we can bring you back sometime. And I thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a beautiful and blessed rest of your evening and week.
You too. Take care. That was Dr. Jameel Syed, and he's just an amazing man. His tips on relationships are incredible, and it was so wonderful to speak with him. I am going to, we're going to end here for Dr. Tranquility Talks Conscious Relationships and Dating and Relationships of all kinds. We're going to close out for the night, and we offer you a wonderful Friday, a blessed weekend, and many, many happy days. And you can always reach me at 212-920-1603. You'll find us on iHeart, on Spotify, on all of your major podcasting networks, and 13 AM FM markets nationally. Take care and be well.